Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ophthalmology Business Podcast. We help you develop your ideal practice with help of other doctors and experts. The topics we cover include marketing, management, leadership, recruitment, HR, mindsets, and more. I am Dr. Deep Parikh, one of the co-hosts of this podcast. Every listener of this podcast is welcome to join the Ophthalmology Business Academy, www.obacademy.org. The membership is on us, and it's our gift to you. Today, I am excited to talk to Dr. Rehan Ahmed, board-certified ophthalmologist, chief medical officer of Blink by Globe Biomedical. Most excitingly, he has won the Eyecelerator competition at AAO 2023. Our topic today is strategies for building a portfolio career, balancing ophthalmology and entrepreneurship. Let's jump in. Before we get started, Dr. Ahmed, why don't you take a minute to tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you? How did you get into ophthalmology? Tell us your story.
Hey, Dr. Parikh. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to the Ophthalmology Business Academy. I think this is fantastic what you guys are working on. And it really ties into a lot of the work that I've been doing. It's sort of speaking my love language when it comes to ophthalmology and business. And that together is really exciting. So a little bit about my background. I was born in Chicago. I grew up in a small town in Bloomington, Illinois. I was always interested in multiple things. I thought I was going to be a computer programmer, computer science. I was really interested, even back in the late 90s, interested in AI and artificial neural networks. But just so it happened, my father was a doctor, and the pressure was spoken and unspoken about going into medicine. So I went to a combined program at University of Illinois. I subsequently did my med school at Vanderbilt, an ophthalmology residency at Baylor College of Medicine. And I really enjoyed private practice ophthalmology when I got out. But I did have the chance in my first group to be a sub-I, then later a PI on some pharmaceutical projects. And that just got me interested in the pharma world and medical devices. We are blessed in ophthalmology that we have access to so much technology, new technology, cutting edge technology, and a really exciting pharmaceutical pipeline. So the opportunity came up to work with a pharmaceutical company to act as a medical director. And I took that. And one of the great things that they allowed me to do, and this is what sort of got me interested in having a portfolio of careers, that they allowed me to continue on my practice in terms of surgical and medical management of ophthalmic patients and taking care of patients, which is something I just love to do. And so that's what got me interested in, hey, I could do the pharma stuff, I could do medical devices, and I could see patients. And I just got really excited by combining all those.
That's super interesting because, the majority of people think you have to do one or the other, right? So you're either, and we know this because we've all, trained alongside people that have gone into industry, and it's sort of this idea that either you're all in industry or you're all in clinical. So it's really amazing that you've been sort of able to bridge that gap between the two. So how exactly did you build this sort of portfolio career?
Yeah, it's funny. I think ophthalmology, maybe even more than other specialties, like we are super subspecialized. I think there's this joke like in ophthalmology, it's like patients will say they'll be surprised that there's someone who specializes in the retina. And one of my retina attendings was like, not only do I specialize in the retina, I specialize in only left eye retina. And so we have this belief that, and I think there's this obvious truth that you do one thing, you do it really, really well, better than anyone else, and you're going to be successful. And that's definitely true. And there is a market for that, to be a super subspecialist. However, there's a great book by David Epstein that's called Range: Why Generalists I don't forget the whole title, but it's like Why Generalists Succeed in the Era of Specialization. And what that basically tells is exactly what you're talking about, like the bridge, the person who can build gaps and connect from AI to ophthalmology. So the first person who thought about retina photographs and can we do AI with it had to have domain knowledge of both of those aspects. And so what I sort of think about in terms of myself is being that connector from, when I got into the pharma world, I got an MBA, and that's been super helpful. And having that pharma world strategic lens, and also having the ophthalmic knowledge, those types of people, I think, and ophthalmology in general, can bring a lot of value to the conversation by being that bridge, as you mentioned.
And Rehan, one of the interesting things is, I mean, think about how many patients a day the average ophthalmologist sees, right? They are knee deep in patient care and have, invaluable insights into what patients need for their diseases and conditions, and that I think any pharmaceutical company would find, invaluable.
Oh, I totally agree. And so if anyone who studies entrepreneurship, one of the first principles is, you have to have a problem to solve. Focus on the problem, not the solution. And as a physician, as an ophthalmologist, every day patients come to you with their problems. I mean, they're literally complaining to you about their problem. The problem getting medication, problem parking in the, in the clinic, the problems of waiting in the office, the problems with the cost of medication, the delivery of medication. I mean, they're basically just feeding you like entrepreneurship, like ideas, and then you see problems like problems billing, getting reimbursed, staffing and training. And so we are really in a unique position because we're just inundated with problems. I mean, we just have problems left and right. So that is definitely a blessing, because you see all these potential solutions then.
It's interesting, but kudos to you for having that attitude, right? Because as I'm listening to you speak, I say, hey, most people in that situation would get burnt out, or they would say, man, that's a lot of problems, but it does take, and I think a lot of ophthalmologists fall into this category. It does take a person to sort of, think about it and say, well, hey, maybe I could fix this, So I think that's,
yeah. Especially if there's a market opportunity. And good ideas thankfully get rewarded, or should get rewarded. And that's what I think the Blink frames do, and Globe Biomedical has been working on too, like solving a real problem that we found.
So you know what? Tell me a little bit about that. So you recently won the Accelerator competition at the AAO with Blink frames. So congratulations. I mean, that's a huge deal. But tell us more about that for those that might not be familiar with Blink or Blink frames. Can you give us a little more detail?
Yeah. So it's a pair of, actually, for the people at home. I mean, obviously this is on video. We're on video, but everyone's listening at home. But it's a pair of regular frames that are tech enabled, and they have a variety of sensors on them to track various ocular parameters. So one of the things that monitors, there's high fidelity cameras on them to monitor the ocular surface. So that could monitor blink rate. It could monitor the dry eye, or the ocular surface, so how dry the eyes are, the tear film. It could monitor conjunctival vessels. There's an accelerometer on there, so it could monitor head position and neck position. And I'll talk about those applications in terms of digital vision syndrome here in a second. It also has humidity sensor, again, for dry eye applications. It can monitor screen time and screen distance, how close or far you are from the screen, how often like your child is on the screen. And also also has activity monitor, so activity levels and whether you're outside or not. So those are the various sensors that we have on it. And we kind of view it as sort of like a foundational platform to go after a variety of indications. And our challenge was we really had to focus in on a couple to really see what's our beachhead market and where's their value sort of long term.
That's awesome. I mean, I think most people are listening to this podcast, they can't see it, but does it come in other colors besides the one you have there?
So yeah, so this is our first indication. This is like so for those at home who can't see, this is like a bright blue. We also have like a hot pink one. These are our pediatric frames, so they're super small. And this is our first indications are our pediatric indication. And so exactly what I was saying, like what problem are you trying to solve? So we did a ton of market research, interviews with potential customers, and in this case, a little bit the cart came before the horse, because we had this great tech, and we're like, wait, so what problem is it going to solve? So the problem our beachhead is in amblyopia, actually. Strangely enough, I'm not a pediatric ophthalmologist. I did my like whatever 2 months of pediatric ophthalmology. I was like, I think I'm all right. But one of the main problems with amblyopia therapy, the main issue for treatment failure is actually patch noncompliance for patients who need to be patched for like severe amblyopia. And we thought, there's no one who's really doing this, who can put on a pair of glasses, like a normal pair of kid glasses, and it will know, the parents will know, the patient, the doctor will know when the child takes off their glasses and when they take off their patch, because it just knows when you're wearing the patch and when you're not. So we sort of socialized this idea with a number of pediatric ophthalmologists, and they just loved it.
Awesome.
This actually solves a real problem we have. Now, it's not a huge market initially, but this is giving us our sort of, giving us confidence to move forward. And so we're an FDA Class 2 device, and we're moving forward first with this indication. Now, soon thereafter, within just a few weeks, we're going down our myopia indication, and I'd love to sort of chat about that too, and some of the other indications we're working on.
So that's the first thing I thought of, right? When you sort of mentioned the things this can track, are you outside? Are you inside? Are you, how long are you looking at screen? How far away is the device? If it can track these things, I mean, that's where I find probably the market there is this booming myopia market to sort of help with that. You mentioned something about FDA classes. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What's FDA Class 2 mean?
So the FDA has 3 classes of devices. There's Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. And they're just stratified on risk. And the riskier they are, the higher class designation they have, the tougher it is to get to that point. This is a Class 2 device. It's a pair of glasses with a camera on them with a variety of sensors. And so that's the class that we went in with our regulatory folks, and the FDA agreed, and we're cleared with that. And we did a 510K based off a predicate device. So so we had to do some initial bench work. I mean, so we had to validate that the stuff works, and that process. So so that's what it's based off of. So it's not really a therapeutic. We're not saying we treat anything, but we're really a monitoring device.
We were talking a little bit about before the podcast. I think this was before the podcast, and you had mentioned that when we see a new drug or a new device in ophthalmology, as ophthalmologists, that something comes across our desk, we don't always think about how many countless hours and people and how much work went into that sort of thing. So we see the end product, and you sort of made a good point. And I envision when you talk about how with Blink, you guys got the FDA, you went through the FDA, you got it for Class 2. That must have been quite a process to sort of go through. And it seems like you've come a long way.
We have. So this, and I should not take all the credit at all. So this was started by 2 engineers in Southern California several years ago. And they've been working on this for a long time and going through various iterations and various use cases. And they've been working on it really, really, really hard. And so I joined them just a couple of years ago as CMO to help them sort of refine their vision a little bit. They've raised several $1 million, much of it in SBIR funding. So from the government, they're working on various sort of even like DoD type contracts for applications in other places. So we are thinking this really sort of widely. And a great line that they have is that, this is basically a Fitbit for your eye. For the longest time, we have, smart glasses. And when people think about smart glasses, they think about the Facebook Ray-Ban glasses or Google glasses, which have cameras or sensors that are pointing outward to augment the world. Frankly, I think that's kind of like creepy, to tell you the truth. But no one's ever actually turned around the sensors and the cameras to point inwards for a diagnostic purpose. And so we sort of flip that equation a little bit, and we've got a lot of traction.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. What's next for the company and for you?
Yeah, so we're really excited, and you're exactly right on the myopia indication. So we think that is obviously going to be a huge epidemic, and it's becoming even more so here in the States. for all the parameters I sort of talked about. And even if you look at the Apple Health Toolkit recently, now they have a myopia monitoring application as part of their iOS. So, we are screen agnostic in terms of screen time and outdoor time, frame wear time. We actually think we're talking to a variety of other players, and there are a lot of synergies. For instance, Essilor has a new lens coming out that like a lens that you put in a pair of frames that will treat myopia in a certain range. And same with Hoya too. It's called the Myos Smart, and Essilor's, I believe, it's called the Stellus lens. So we think pairing that treatment lens with our frames really creates a nice package. In addition to the various products that are coming out to treat myopia in terms of pharmaceuticals, they're obviously, the atropine ones are going to be, they'll cause a little bit of pupillary dilation. So we think we could track compliance too, because we'd be able to measure pupil size. And so we think there are a lot of potential plays that we can be as sort of a platform for other companies to use our devices, or other providers and physicians. And if you're an optometrist and you see your revenues going down because, frankly, your undifferent glasses are becoming more and more it's hard to differentiate, and you lose patients online, and because they go shop online. We think having something that will connect your patient that you have to your office, because obviously the glasses have a way to communicate with the parent and with the provider. That's a great way to engage the patient, the parent, and the doctor. And we really think that's a powerful sort of value proposition for optometrists in particular.
I was very interested when, and I don't know if they still are, if they were working on the contact lenses that track intraocular pressure.
Yeah.
I haven't kept up to see where they are with that, but is there any way you foresee that being Blink sort of being involved with that on some level? I mean, I'm trying to envision how that would work, but
so yeah, there's two contact lenses. One's Triggerfish, which is a whole device, and the other one's, I think, Smart Lens. And I'm sure there's other companies that are doing really amazing work on this stuff, and it's really just fantastic. I've been thinking about like remote IOP for a long time. I think there's a way that we could work together with a contact lens based IOP sensors, because those are sort of image based as far as I know. But we're also working on our own IOP module, to tell you the truth. We think there is a way, and other groups have shown some preliminary evidence of tracking IOP with image alone. That's definitely not part of this first iteration, or even our next iteration, but long term. Our next iteration, what we're looking at, is computer vision syndrome. For the same reasons of myopia. Look, I spend a ton of time in front of the computer, and I will spend like literally 3 hours just staring at my screen, not moving my neck, not like blinking my eyes. And what I tell patients, we tell them like the 20-20-20 rule, right? Like, dude, does anyone even do that? Like, that's kind of ridiculous that we're still talking about that. Like, I don't know. And so I would love, and these frames do this, like to put on my sort of computer glasses that I would wear, and then when the glasses can sense that the ocular surface is getting dry, or you're not blinking enough, or you haven't moved your neck in like 25 minutes, that you could get some haptic feedback to remind you to do that. So we think that there's a digital vision syndrome play, in addition to a fatigue play that some industry players have expressed some interest in, and that's sort of our next big market that we're really excited about.
Awesome. What advice do you have for our listeners? I mean, again, I think it's remarkable that you're able to sort of be so involved with Blink and still practice ophthalmology. What advice do you have for our listeners? Maybe someone who's just a few years out of residency and wants to build a multifaceted career. How would you advise them to get started?
Yeah. So I think a couple things. One, you have to remain curious and say yes to opportunities that come along, especially when you're early in your career. Like, you don't know what you're interested, or what you're not, or what you're good at, or what you're not, until you actually try it. And so I got into the pharma world really by just a happenstance conversation I had with someone saying, they need some help with this. And I wasn't sure exactly what it was or what it meant, but I thought, this is kind of interesting. It sort of piqued my curiosity. So I think saying yes to a lot of any opportunity, especially earlier in careers, is huge. The second thing is networking. Like there's so many conferences in addition to AAO. There's the Accelerator. There's OIS. Askers has their own thing. And now like with the ophthalmology business podcast that you guys are doing, fantastic. And paying attention. And then afterwards, contacting people that are on the show. And if they're interested, sending a nice email can go a long way. Thoughtful, well-constructed, and one that shows your research. People are looking to give advice and be a mentor. And I think seeking out mentors was super helpful. So I think saying yes to opportunities, asking for advice, networking, and seeking out mentorship are all the things that I think are very valuable in trying to build a sort of multifaceted career.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, and I think that resonates with a lot of other guests on the podcast that have had sort of similar advice for young doctors out there. And what about you? Where do you see your career? I mean, you're sort of already so successful at various different aspects of ophthalmology. What would you like to do the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? Where do you see yourself, your career going?
Oh, wow. I can't even figure out the next 2 years. So yeah, 15 seems like, I don't even know where the world will look like. So I think, I think strategically about my, even my career and like, where do you want to be? And so I always try to think, you have to have some vision for the future, where you think ophthalmology is headed. And where do you want your career to like intersect with that? So, I'm super interested in Blink Frames and the larger idea of AI in healthcare, like basically everyone else. I was interested, I like to think, I was interested in AI before it was cool. So, maybe I should get some credibility there, but probably not. But yeah, I'm really interested in that. I'm interested in AI, robotics, and, the problems that we see a ton, there are some structural problems that are just going to be huge problems. Essentially, not enough providers, more demand than we can handle. And how is our society going to address that? So I'm thinking those are sort of big picture terms and thinking about what solutions will be best positioned to deal with those. So that's sort of where I see sort of my career going on the macro level. On the micro level, I have always, and I hope to always be taking care of patients on the individual level. I think the amount of satisfaction, and this too, the amount of satisfaction that we get taking care of patients really is just like, you can't really replicate it by like making devices and stuff. That's kind of like the secret we have as clinicians. And that's something I really just love doing. And I want to continue doing that.
Yeah. And it's amazing that you've been able to maintain both. And that's great to hear. Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmed. Again, board certified ophthalmologist and chief medical officer of Blink by Globe Medical. Thanks for joining us today and talking to us. We appreciate it very much. I also want to take a moment to thank our listeners. We appreciate each and every one of you. We cannot do what we do without you. If you like our podcast, kindly share it with your friends and on social media. Also, please don't forget to write us a review on iTunes or Google Play. Your reviews will help other doctors and practice owners find us. Till we meet again, wishing you all an amazing week ahead.
Equimarketing, your key to a stellar online reputation. Book your free marketing strategy meeting with Ryan today. Visit www.obacademy.org/MSM/Ryan and take charge of your online presence.